This story is about a man called Saul. Now, Saul was a man who showed a lot of broken love. He didn't like Jesus. When Jesus was on the earth, he wanted to stop people from following him, stop people from listening. Now, at this part of the Bible, Jesus had actually risen from being dead up to being alive again, and he was now living in God's heaven, in God's kingdom. He'd ascended into heaven. And so Jesus wasn't on the earth, but Jesus did have lots of followers, people that loved him and wanted to continue doing amazing things in the world, just like he had done, and they wanted to spread God's love everywhere they went. But Saul didn't like this and he wanted to stop them. So Saul asked for permission from the high priest, that's one of the religious leaders. He said, "Can I catch people who are followers of Jesus and put them in prison?" And so this is what Saul wanted to do. Every day he wanted to go and find people and put them in prison for being followers of Jesus. Remember, Saul was full of a lot of broken love. This day, Saul and a couple of other people who were with him were on their way to a place called Damascus. And something amazing happened. Now remember, Jesus is in God's kingdom, so he wasn't on the earth with Saul at this time, when all of a sudden there was a bright light that shone down from heaven, from God's kingdom, and Jesus' voice spoke, and it said, "Saul, why do you persecute me?" That means, why does he do broken love things and stop people from wanting to follow him? And at that moment, something happened to Saul's eyes. Saul couldn't see anymore. He had gone blind. Let's cover up Saul's eyes. Oh dear. Saul couldn't see anything. Jesus, with God's superpower, had done something to stop Saul from being able to see. The people who were with Saul had heard the voice and they'd seen the bright light, but they didn't know where it came from. They couldn't see that it was Jesus. But Saul knew that it was Jesus speaking. And so Saul had to have some help. Jesus said he must go all the way to Damascus and he must go to a home there and wait. And so that's what happened. Saul went to the home and he was still blind. He still couldn't see. The people that were with him made sure that he got there safely. Now, Saul didn't eat anything for 3 whole days, and he was blind for 3 whole days. Meanwhile, there was one of Jesus' followers called Ananias, and Ananias had seen a vision or heard something from God, a message which had said, "You must go and find Saul. He is in a house and he is blind and he cannot see. You must go and lay hands on his eyes so that he can see again." Now, Ananias wasn't very sure because he knew that Saul was somebody that showed a lot of broken love. Why would he want to help Saul to see again? If he helped Saul, then maybe Saul would start to catch people that were followers of Jesus and put them into prison. But God said, "It's fine. You need to go and help him because he's a changed man. He's not going to show broken love anymore. He's going to show love. And in fact, he's going to help to gather followers of Jesus." And so Ananias did as he said. On his way, all the way to Saul. In the meantime, Saul had the same picture. He knew that a man was going to come and lay hands over his eyes and make them better. And it was just as they had both been shown by God. Ananias arrived and he laid hands onto Saul's eyes. And then Saul could see again. And you know what? Saul was a changed man. Saul followed Jesus and he was baptized, which meant that he was sorry for all of the broken love things that he had done to people. Once he had eaten some food and regained his strength, Saul was on a mission. He had a special job to do. Saul was going to do amazing things in the world, just like Jesus did. Saul's job was to teach all of the people about God's love and about Jesus, and teach people to become followers of Jesus. Isn't that amazing? Saul went from showing so much broken love, wanting to put people in prison for following Jesus, to saying, actually, no, I want you to follow Jesus. I know who Jesus is now, and I want you to be special friends with him, just like I am. And so that's the story of Saul. And actually, Saul was then given a new name, and he wasn't called Saul anymore. He was now called Paul. And we can read so many things in the Bible about all of the amazing things that Paul, who was Saul, did to show and teach people about God's love. Wow, I love the fact that Saul was somebody that showed broken love and he changed and he showed love instead. That's amazing.